Now this function. So guys, now we are on YouTube and I will explain a little bit just for the guys who is watching us. This is a meeting for Prime Minister. So guys, now we not is a class, it's just a meeting for practicing. So we don't need correct anybody. We just stay here to practice and to know other people and share our knowledge. Is that, and the topic today is microservice. It's a soft English tech topic, and is that I will share in the chat the questions for discuss, but I like to start to introduce for the group because I know someone don't know others.
Great. Can I introduce myself?
Yes, please start.
Okay. Well, I'm Leo. I'm 27 years old. I live in Rio de Janeiro. I'm not a technical person. I'm here to learn with you guys who are programmers. But I work inside of the technology fields as a product manager in an agency, marketing agency here in Rio. And then I'm here to make friends, to improve my English, keep in contact with English tech talks. It's so important for me. For example, this issue maybe are not new for you, but for me could be something a little new. I've heard a little bit about microservice, but for example, serverless, never. But for me, it's interesting to stay here, yeah, to keep talking with the technical guys. It's so important.
It's nice, Leo. Nice to meet you. So, could you introduce yourself, Victor?
Sure. I'm Heitor, I'm 38, live in São Paulo. I'm working as quality assurance since 2020. And I always work with microservices. And at this moment, I'm studying to become a back-end developer because I love this kind of service to develop microservices and databases. I think is most useful for my career in the future. And I think it's that.
It is great. I'm actually working as a software engineer in the backend. So this is it's amazing area to work in the black side of the phone. But I am actually a full stack and work a little bit with the front, but in low code, not with React anymore. But I am new in this area. I transited my career this year, and I am working with this from 18 months. And I'm living in Florianópolis, Santa Catarina. I'm married, and I have a bachelor degree in chemistry too, and is that I think. And João, I know you, but I don't know if the others know.
Okay, my name is João Pedro Sena. I'm 22 years old, and I currently work with microservice and serverless service. I'm currently working with GCP on my cloud. I used to work with AWS, but my company, they did a partnership with Google, so now we use GCP. And it's awesome to use serverless service because my company, it's a medium-sized company and they don't have any TI infrastructure. So we can scale by just clicking one button. So that's really cool.
Yeah, I was trying putting a big leave at this. I get you.
Yeah, because I saw this problem before in other class, because the teacher was trying to copy and paste a big text. Yeah, if you, for example, try to copy just the first five questions and
Okay.
after the other could be
Oh, maybe it's that.
great.
You know, the tech person lead with tech. Zoom
Yeah,
and-
this is a problem. This is a problem of Zoom.
Okay, so now we have the questions here. And guys, the microservice is something new for me too, because I'm working in this new company from July, yeah. And they introduced this topic to me. We work voted to event architecture on the AWS, and we need to divide our system in microservices and a lot of different microservices. And it's difficult to start to think in that way, but it's so easy to maintain, you know. So I think this is a great talk. But let's talk. I will make the first question and choose people to start, choose someone to start, and please choose the other and continue answer, okay? So, Heitor, are you familiarized with the term microservice and microservice architecture style?
Yeah, as I talked, I always work with microservices. I think it's pretty easy to work with that. I can imagine working with a monolith because maybe we have a lot of problems with that. I heard about some guys that work with monolith and have to wait to test them, maybe stay 2 or 3 weeks without work. And after that, have 2 or 3 weeks of insane work because you have a lot of things to test. And actually, I fall in love for the microservice architecture because it's very simple to understand. And I think there is a lot of fields to study about and develop a lot of things. And for you, Leo?
First, I would like to understand better the concept of microservice. What would be this?
I think it's pretty easy to explain. Imagine an application, okay? You have, for example, unsubscribe of client and deliver of client. So if you have a monolith application, you have just one code for everything, do everything, okay? And when you have microservices, each service have a code separate. And for example, you have separate teams to develop them. And I think it's the most challenge is integrate the microservice with others, because there is a law, then one microservice can talk with another one. Okay, they don't communicate with, I don't know how to explain that in English, it's very hard.
That's the challenge of the class.
Yeah. And you have to create some integrations to they have this kind of communication. and you can use message brokens and logs. I don't know if I told
Great.
exactly. Maybe João and Julia could explain better.
But it's necessarily to use the same language, programming language, when we talk about a big project, or not?
No, not as
No.
necessary. This is the big advantage, we can have big team with different knowledge and developers as some program.
I don't know if I'm right. For example, if we talk about e-commerce, because it's my words of e-commerce. I don't know, the chatbot could be a microservice inside of e-commerce. And additionally, the favorites button could be other microservice, for example, to click and save the product as a favorite, for example. And then these are a lot of different features inside of e-commerce. For example, carrinho de compras, it's another service. And then, if I'm right, these different kind of features inside of e-commerce could be a microservice using a different language and integrated with APIs, for example. It's something like that.
Yeah, but think about the favorite icon. I think is a too small to have a entire team work with that. You can divide, for example, in customer experience. Okay, everything to do in your site, but you can divide, like you said, because in checkout, we have a microservice for checkout. We have a microservice for stock. We have a microservice for delivery. Okay, you have a lot of microservice payment, and you have a lot of
and go on.
Chatbot, and you can divide. There is a lot of companies that make this job to see what you do and divide. Okay, like I don't know how to say colmeia. I forgot, like a lot of parts. Okay, your commerce can be dividing, I don't know, 20, 30 different parts, and each part is a microservice different.
Wonderful. Yeah. So I'm not so familiarized with the term, because nowadays I have to interact with IT teams inside of my company to talk with them about what we need. For example, we have to develop a chatbot for a new e-commerce, and then I have all the documentation for the chatbot with the features that we're going to need. And then I'm responsible for writing these requirements to this chatbot, but I'm not entering in the roles, inside of the tech decisions, if they are going to use microservice or not, for example. But for me, it's interesting, very interesting to know and have more contacts, to talk with them. Great.
Nice. João, please talk a little bit.
Okay, I was searching now on Google. I really don't work with microservice. I just work with serverless application. So I made a mistakes about the terms. But it was very interesting to listen about that. You talking a lot with about development, software development, something like that. That's really cool. I think I'm not yet so familiarized with microservice, but I was searching here, and it's a really interesting style. Like I was seeing the monolithic architecture. I found it's really like difficult to work with just one real big code, one application with real big code. I think it's better to decentralize these codes, but I really don't know. As a data engineer, I use a lot serverless application, but not microservice architecture.
Yeah, great. You already answered the second question, I think, because you talk about the monolith. And Aitor start to talk about this too, but I will make the question if you need to complement something, okay? Are you familiarized with the term monolithic and monolithic architecture style? And I am familiarized with that because when I was a student and a web developer, this is the unique way I was learning about. So I start with this view, you know, a monolithic and a mono repository thing, and I do that during my course. And when I ended the course, I think 3 projects, two or three, I don't remember very well. I make a B repository because I divided the structure and front end and back end and make the different deploys and consume one another. And this is, oh my God, very new for me, you know. And I use the Heroku for up this and consume the backend and this greater. And now I use the AWS in my work, and this is so easier. And this is what it was so difficult in my mind because this transition not is so easier when you start to think in a small parts in the code. And like this experience, not is a big device, you know, it's just 2. But nowadays, I am using this platform AWS to divide my code in very small parts, you know. I am actually working in a bot, and I use 4 repositories, and 2 of them have a lot of microservices inside of the same repository. So it's a lot of things to think. And so monolith for me not is new, but is old, you know. I can't imagine myself working with that again and put my mind in a company, because when you are learning, it's very easier to work in that way. And it's important pass for that, for understand the difficult to divide the system too, because like Heitor told us, not so easy think about divide this and connect the things. And it's important to think about connect this and not couple. Yeah, I think couple could use it with some feature, you know. You need to think in the way to create, to build this in separate way. This is the big problem. And yes, I'm familiar with the both. So please, I don't know if you can complement something, Heitor.
No, you are perfect. And I familiarized with monolith, but I think it's terrible work with that, because try to think, if you develop a new feature in, for example, in delivery part of the application, you have to deploy every application to put that in production, okay? It's very different when you work with microservice. You develop something new in one microservice specific, you just deploy this microservice. Every application in another side is still working. You don't have to take off the application to put something in production, okay? You just deploy a new thing, and all of the application remain working. I think it's incredible when someone talk with the I forgot the answer. Desvantagens, disadvantages. I don't know if it's that of microservices. They say you have to maintain a lot of teams. Okay, it's not usually you have one team develop two different microservices. You have a lot of different teams to do that, but in my opinion, it's much better because you have a more let me refresh my thoughts. A specialist team in every microservice. It's very hard to have a person that know everything about the application, okay? But you have specialists in every kind of microservices. And Leo and João?
I found very interesting this. I never heard about monolithic and microservice this way. As a software developer, you use like more like what language do you use more currently? Like use Python, use Java, depends of the application.
Depends
How
of
it
the
works?
application. And I think Java is the more useful language nowadays in Brazil. But for example, for web apps, you can use Ruby on Rails, JavaScript, or something like that, because they had frameworks that make your work very easily. For example, in Rails and JavaScript, you can develop the roads of API just with one command. It's very easy. So, but depend of the kind of services application is a mobile app. You can develop in JavaScript, in Go, in Kotlin, or it's a web app. You can develop in Rails, JavaScript, also Java, but it's a little hard.
Flutter too.
Flutter, yeah. Yeah.
In my company,
Thinking,
sorry,
go
sorry.
ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I would say that my company, the IT developers, they just use JavaScript to web and app applications, and Python to data science. Yeah, to
Yeah.
work with data.
It's a new company.
No, since 2012. Since 2012, this company, it's a loyalty marketing agency that develops e-commerce, loyalty, rewards programs, and other product, cashback, for example.
Yeah, because I answer just because this is a great combination and work well, and new companies adopted this a lot, this combination, JavaScript and Python, or TypeScript too, in the backend principle. I use that. I learn JavaScript in Python and TypeScript, and I am using TypeScript in my backend, and it's easier than Java. I start to learn this, but I decline. JavaScript is better.
JavaScript is easier to learn. Yeah. What is easier,
Java.
JavaScript or Python?
Python.
Python is easier.
Easier
Python
me,
and Ruby on Rails is like similar. JavaScript is easy to learn. Java is horrible. I tried 3 times to learn Java, but I really fail with that because it's very complicated to understand. It's a high typing. I don't know, I can't understand why someone do something in Java. It's so complicated.
Don't you think that's this could be one of the reasons to the extinguish of this language in the future.
Maybe yes, but it's very hard to take off Java because we have a lot of things in Java. I think the most of programs still build in Java, and developers, if you, I don't know, if you put a vacancy on LinkedIn, try to find a Java developer, you have a lot of developers, but it's very complicated because last week I saw a senior vacancy in Kotlin or Go. It's very hard to find someone with 5 years of experience in Java, in Kotlin or Go. It's almost impossible to find that in Brazil. So it's a very strange. I think in the near future, JavaScript it's start to take this position of first language, or maybe Python, because nowadays you are able to construct a lot of things in Python, not even data science, but you have Django to construct web apps, and you can construct two games in Python. So we have a lot of another language, but it's, Java still are the main language in Brazil.
Yeah, I agree with you, Heitor. It's difficult. Know people with time to develop the new languages, and if you get someone who knows Java and knows well, this guy can learn all language, and it's difficult think the reverse of that. I know JavaScript, but when I stop to learn Java, not is so easy to me. I can make some connections because Java is the father of the JavaScript. Can think like that, but it's different. It's totally different, and sometimes I feel like something is so unnecessary to do. Oh my God, I can do this in 5 lines, but I need to write all this. It's crazy. It's difficult, but at the same time, some softwares and some pages need Java because it's all the construction is using that, and Java can do all, not is great now, but you can do all with Java, like Python. You can do all, not is the better way to do all, but you can do. But nowadays we have these microservices, and we can connect the things very well. So you can divide the things and do the better you need with Java, and do you better you need with JavaScript, and do you better you need with Python, and put all this together. This is the magnificent thing, in my opinion.
Great. I saw a news some weeks ago that is not exactly a language programming, but it's like the language more required in the world. Yeah, when you put on LinkedIn, we can do this test online right now if you can. It's SQL. It's the language that have a lot of jobs open, more than Python, more than Java, more than JavaScript, more than others language. SQL, it's so required today in the world of data. Yeah, I saw something almost 2 times more than other language when you look for jobs on LinkedIn. It's so crazy too.
Because everything you gonna do, you have to use the database.
Yeah.
Everything. If you will build a web app or mobile application, you have to use a database. To manipulate this database, you have to know SQL. It doesn't matter which language you use, you have to manipulate that, you have to create a database, you have to see the data inside that. So I think 9% of the jobs vacancies ask for SQL. You have to understand how the database works. It's like I don't know how to explain that, but
Fundamental.
yeah, it's fundamental. You have to know how the database works. And
Yeah. Yeah, very interesting.
Guys,
I have a doubt about monolithic. For example, in my company, we developed performance robots, to run some different tables, more than 20 tables, in relationship with each other. And monthly, we have to run a code to have the output, the results of the sales and versus goals, points, rewards of each seller. And then here we are talking about a big system with more than 20 tables and a big code to run all the rules to make this well. Yeah, it's possible to work with a microservice in this kind of service, for example, or have to or it's necessary to use monolithic systems. I don't know if I explained too well.
I don't know if I understand the right, but you want to manipulate tables to generate some data to make your decision. That's right?
Yeah, for example, we have 20 tables in one site, and we have a big code to transform these 20 tables in a just one. And this code, these big codes, have a lot of rules, yeah, a lot of business rules to run this apuração, yeah, in the right way. This is an example of monolithic system, or could be necessarily a microservice?
I think it's, in my opinion, it's a perfect example of monolith because, of course, you have a lot of tools, but you have just a main object or main goal, okay, to filter this data and to show what the customer wants. For example, I want to know how many sales I had last month. Okay, doesn't matter if the code is extremely big. You can imagine that we have one function that filter this table and show what the customer wants. It's hard to divide that microservice, in my opinion, of course, because let's think about, you have to create a team for developer a button for last month, or just filter the sales for a month. You have to create another team to filter it in the value of sales. I don't, in my opinion, it don't make much sense to divide that, because you just filter which data with rows, not rows. I forgot, columns. You just filter the columns and the rows of a table. You can do this with, for example, Power BI. It's very easy to do that. And I don't know, sorry for myself. But I think it's a good example to monolith, in my opinion.
Great, great.
My opinion is a monolith too, but it's difficult. Like haters say, imaginary divide that, because it's like a unique service with more demands, when we think in microservice, we need to think about, it's like to build the walls in torno of that to protect the service, because this service needs to work well and separately. And if you need in something of that to continue working, is needs to stay together, you know. And like the example you told us, everything needs to be in the same place. So in this case, it's a typical monolith, but I think because it's the Unix service too, but I don't know if is a service divided of the others, but this service you told us is something like unique. Let's take the other question here. This is most for the editor question. What would be your reaction if during the interview the company told you, we are using a monolithic architecture and we have intention to scale it in 3 months? It makes you feeling good to accept this opportunity?
Depend of the money. If you offer a lot of money, it's normal to me. I think the great challenge is not work with a monolith and put in production in 3 months. It's actually putting in 3 months is the real challenge. Even microservice, put it in 3 months, it's almost impossible. Let me give an example. We developed a new product on my company, and since May, and we deploying product last week. We spent 5 months to develop that, and it's very complicated. You have a lot of things to think about, and it's very fun because the main idea, it's very simple. You just think, okay, it's not a big deal. It's easy to do that. But when you start to understand, okay, to do that, you have to develop a new thing. You have to communicate with another thing. And okay, if you have this kind of problem, and if you have something relation with fraud, you have a lot of things to think about when developing an easy product. So we have to connect with central bank, and we have to make a contract with another company, then manipulate the money because we are not a bank. So that is a lot of things to think about. In my opinion, the real challenge is not about monoliths. The real challenge is about time. And sometimes we don't have time. It's funny to talk about that. So if you give me a lot of money, to work maybe 24 hours by day, it's fine by me.
Great. This is, I think, is the same, but for me it's more difficult. I don't have this knowledge to think and construct all this by myself. You know, I need a great team with me, because like you told us, it's difficult connecting things and shows the parts to disconnect it, and it's interesting. You know the code, you know the purpose of the product to understand the main goal to do the things, and probably 3 months you probably will spend the first one just to understand all the thing, you know. And the second for slice something and project the way to do this thing, and need some guys to reproduce your idea, you know. So after you constructed the first one, the first microservice, it's okay, I produce for the other ones, but the main goal here is think about these devices, and this can you need some time to do that. So for me, in my in my real stage of my career, I say, hey guy, no, you need another guy to do that. Leonardo, I don't know if you understand our discussion, if you could agree with us.
I disagree.
Yeah, and now you both can discuss things, but what would be your reaction if your boss asked for your opinion to decide about the architecture style? What you choose? What do you choose? For me, the great answer here is depends, you know, because everything depends in this area, and depends the how big is the project, you know. If this is a single page, okay, do a monolith of that, and mono repository too, it's okay. Now if you are constructor a big Netflix, for example, please think about in your opinion, guys.
Yeah, depends. As Leonardo said about the whole with tables. In my opinion, it's better to construct a monolith. But if you develop something bigger, I always pen for the side of microservices. I think it's more scalable to deploy. I think it's more easier to understand. Sometimes it's complex. Let me give an example. If you develop something to deliver a product, you can imagine you can develop a microservice for address to find your zip code and your address. You have to develop a microservice for the product because you have to take the information about the size of the product, the weight of the product, and you have to deliver a microservices for calculate the cost of to deliver that. So you consult the microservice about the address, you consult the microservice about the product, you put this together and calculate the price. So it's very complex to develop a microservice, but I think it's more easier to scalable that in production. So I always try to go to the microservice, but depend of the role is monolith is better to understand and construct that.
Great. Now that I'm studying more with you guys, I would say it depends. So it depends too. But I was thinking about the most examples that I worked today, and when I think about data science, for example, to build some code to run and to have outputs are a result of a combination of multiple tables. In that situations, I believe that monolithics could be the better option because all the time that I need these outputs, I will need to run the code to reach all the projects, all the backups. Yeah, it's almost impossible to run a part of code because I will have to look for all the tables before generate the output. Yeah, then in situations like that, for example, when we're going to make predictions of sales, we're going to have to consult the data inside of a company and the data outside the company. For example, inflation and other public data, APIs, to have access of the data of the markets, like dollar quotation and other data, public data. But all the time that I need to see the outputs inside of a dashboard, I will need to run the code entirely and not just one part. In situations like that, I believe it's almost impossible to have a microservice.
Yes, it's a great point. And when we are developing microservices, sometimes we destroy our knowledge, something like that. We sometimes see that microservice, but consume the unique service a lot of times. So when you construct things like that, you notice you don't build a microservice. You build a monolith, but multiple repository. No, you divide the code, but the main of the goal of the thing depends on the unique services. So this is a monolith too, and this is a big discussion to do with your team, to consume just the necessary and reply this code and consume just one time a day or things like that, for not sobrecarregar the system of this application. It's a good point. Interesting.
I have an ask for you too. For example, today I've seen some people talking about no code tools. Do you believe that throughout no code tools, it's possible to build a new system and the machine make the decision for you if the machine are going to use microservice or, for example, monolithic? Because using no code, you are not seeing the all of the decisions of this platform. For example, you are just seeing dragging and drop the blocks to build a system, but the decision behind of the no-code platform could be invisible. Yeah. What do you think about this when we talk about monolithic versus microservice? It's possible to build something without making this decision?
Well, I think no, because the low-code tools that I have knowledge is just the front end side. So it's just to view the things, but the construction of the system is the backside. So you need to architecture the things to expose this endpoint. So you can use a microservice like my company do. We use our microservice and use a low code to reproduce that. And this is a good way to use the low code platform, because you use monoservice and don't need to update everything every time, and not because this low code platform needs more energy to work, because this is a service, not very good service. It's okay service, and the back end needs to be faster to complement that, and don't use all your energy of your machine to produce this page. So the platform you chose to use in front end, not necessarily decide anything for you. You need to decide this in the backside.
I don't have any experience with low code. I don't know how deep you can build with low code. I know there's a host here named Raisa, then worked with low code. I asked her about that, if we're able to construct entire microservice with a message broker and logs with low code. And she say, yes, it's possible, but you have to know a little bit about programming to do that. But I don't know the real side of what you can construct with low code. For example, I think my only experience with that, I forgot the name, to construct websites.
Wix.
Wix, yeah, that's my real experience with low code. But I don't know if it's possible to construct a database to subscribe clients. You have to maintain a login page with that. You know, I don't know if it's possible with low code, but
And that
you always,
is possible.
yeah.
I already tried that. Yeah.
I don't know if it's possible, but I think you have to have someone to program that. So always will be necessary a programmer. Maybe the easy tasks you will build in low code, but I don't know if the complex it's possible.
Yeah, I think it's as I told us, it's necessary follow deep this tool to understand, you know. So it's difficult to do that if you doesn't are a programmer person. So if you don't use the program to develop this, you construct a simple thing, you know, but it's maybe can be possible, but not as easier. We normally use these tools to try something, and when you get your answers, you construct your web page, you know, some for a little time.
Great.
So guys, I put in the chat the survey about our meeting. Please answer that and put that some topic you are interested to discuss. I'm great with this experience. I think it can be difficult to talk about that, but we get this topic.
That was amazing.
Yeah, and we don't use all the questions, so maybe I made you one meeting part 2 about this. But please put your topic ideas and make your review about the meeting. And I don't know if you like to share something about the sensation of stay here with me. Feel free, some minutes to end our meeting on YouTube.
I think it was amazing. I love this kind of class with more technical subjects. Sometimes I miss that when talk about, I don't know, internet. I think it's not so deep for a TI class, but I love. Congratulations, Julia.
Yeah, I also enjoyed so much. Even I'm not a technical person, but for me, it's so interesting to know more what you talk, to have more knowledge to talk with technical teams. Yeah, it's interesting for me.
Nice, guys. Thank you, and I'm great you like this, and I will think about new topics for us, more tech. Is that
Great.
guys? Please have a nice day and enjoy your lives.
Thank you,
guys.
Thank you, guys.
See you.
Bye-bye.
See you. Bye-bye.